Welcome to the last of our three-part series all about safe dilution. If you haven't listened to part 1 or 2 yet, I strongly encourage you, after you're done listening to this one, to go back and listen to episode 31 and 32. They're great to dive deeper into other parts of dilution. In this episode, all three of us again, Rachael, Rhonda, and myself, Nikki, will be going over Essentria's dermal dilution chart for specific conditions and areas. If you've enjoyed this three-part series, or any other episode for that matter, we would really appreciate it if you could just take a few seconds and give us a rating so that other people can find us easier and we can continue to spread the amazing benefits of aromatherapy. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Vetiver Vibes podcast. We're your hosts, Nikki, Rachael, and Rhonda, certified clinical aromatherapists coming to you from Ontario, Canada, and on the internet everywhere.
This episode is brought to you by Essentria, a leading online school for aromatherapy. Essentria is your go-to source for clinical aromatherapy certification programs that are recognized by NAHA and the Canadian Federation of Aromatherapists.
If you want to learn more about Aroma Massage course, check out their website, www.schoolofessentria.com. We're excited that you've given your time to be here with us, knowing you'll get the best essential oil scoop.
So welcome to Vetiver Vibes. We are here today to talk again. This is part 3 of our 3-part series about essential oil safety and dilution charts. So today's chart that we're going to talk about is the dermal dilutions. So dermal dilutions are like when you're using them on your face, aroma massage, bath and body, specific issues, and dermal wounds and pain. So I'm here today once again with all 3 of us. So we're all together. And Rachael Dean,
Nikki,
Rhonda.
All right. So let's talk about, or right now we'll talk about using essential oils on your face. We'll start there. Do you want to use a lot of oil on your face? Do you want to use a little bit of oil on your face?
A little bit.
A little bit. I'm like, this is a podcast. We need to say it out loud, not just our faces.
We're letting everyone take a second to think about what they would want to answer. So the answer is a little bit. And if you said a lot, we are going to correct you and say it's a little bit.
A little bit. It's always a little bit. That's a default answer for essential oils. Start with a little bit.
And if you haven't figured that out yet, please go listen to part 1 and 2, where we stress often start with less. Less is more. Always start at the bottom.
For sure.
Yes. Yes. And so like part of the reason that we suggest those lower amounts on the face is the skin is more sensitive on the face and it's thinner, right? So we need a lot less of the essential oil. And often you'll find aromatherapists might not even put an essential oil in a facial blend because those dilutions are so low. They might actually just stick to the therapeutic benefits of carrier oils and hydrosols, right? So
hydrosols. This is my rose hydrosol right here that I've been spraying tonight, and it's great. That's what I always used on my facials, for sure.
That's what I use most often with clients is the rose. I do have a helichrysum and Roman chamomile and a few other ones, depending on if there's a specific situation. But if it's just a normal facial or toner that I'm doing, anything like that, then a rose is so amazing.
Yes. And one of the tips that we learned in one of our mini courses, I think it was the skincare one, you can just use the hydrosol with the carrier oil together on your face, and it creates almost like a lotion effect without having to actually blend the lotion. So that's always a benefit. Yeah, and they're both part of aromatherapy. So the essential oil isn't even necessary at all, right? It's optional if you want to use it, but we don't recommend using it beyond 1.5%. And less is more. So try and start lower than that if you can.
So this is really important. A lot of people like to make serums with their face routine after or cleaning or anything like that. So depending on whatever carrier, and I mean, there's so many different carrier oils out there. You want something that's not going to clog your skin, and then starting at that 0.2% for a serum and seeing how that works for a little bit. And then if you feel like you need to up it, you could try a little bit more, but that'll make a big difference in just that.
How many days do you recommend that they try something like that for before they would decide to maybe increase?
I always have a rule of 3 weeks. So try something for 3 weeks, because this allows your body to reset its baseline and really see if something's working and to give it a try. It's not a magic wand. It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't matter what it is. Most of the things, it takes time, days, consistency. So 3 weeks is a good trial period to see if there's actually going to be a difference. And it takes time for the skin to regenerate and the cells to turn over also. So this gives that little bit of time as well.
Yes. And there's also times with your facial applications that you don't want to use essential oils at all. Or you want to be really careful if you're using them at all. Like, I know if you have a type of like cystic acne that's creating like open wounds and the pores are quite large in the skin, and you're treating it with an essential oil, you could actually cause more inflammation and pain than actually treating the acne problem, right? So really your focus would be on healing the wounds and the pores and things that are going on in the skin first, and then explore if you need an essential oil to help prevent the acne piece, so that you've got all the inflammation and the worst part of the infections gone.
Now, does this count for headaches? Because I know a lot of people, they are using blends along their hairline, their forehead, their temples for headaches. So is this included in the facial aspect of this?
Yes.
Default answer is yes.
I agree. I always keep it that way too. It's just a nice, easy way. Anything that goes on the face, you keep it at that lower percent. The skin doesn't matter if it's still your forehead.
Yeah.
Your skin is still thinner and more sensitive versus other parts of your body. That's just the way the skin's made on your face.
Exactly.
Yep.
So yes.
Awesome.
Answer is yes. Aroma massage is the next part. So that has a 1.5 to 3%. Why would that change, Nikki? Well,
so I mean, I typically keep my aroma massage to a 1 to 2%. If it's a younger person, I definitely keep it to the 1%. My kids will often ask me for massages and they'll hop up on the bed. So if I have something around, I'll grab one of my lower ones. But because you're doing the full body, right? An aroma massage, you're literally doing your back, your arms, your legs, your face, your neck. Some people include stomach, some people don't. Your feet, your hands, like most of your body is being covered in the blend. And with such a large surface, especially for adults, we are bigger, then we really want to make sure that we're not inundating ourselves with too much oil. So because there's a large surface of skin being covered, keeping it to that 1.5%, 2% is going to be the ideal. If there's a specific condition, you could go up to 3, but again, less is more, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, and when we look at essential oils, they're volatile. Like, they're not sort of oily or moisturizing in nature, right? They actually dry the skin out. So using less is actually better for us, and is in ensuring that they're diluted with the carrier oil, because the carrier oils have the fatty content that provides that moisturizing that we want and helps protect us from that drying feature in the essential oil. So when we're doing all the full body application, you don't want to dry out your whole body with too much essential oils.
My skin is too dry to begin with. I definitely don't need to add to that. So bath and body, does anyone want to define what bath and body means in this chart?
I see that as like bath salts when you're adding oils into the bath itself, or if you're making not necessarily sprays, but just I think of like when you're going into
Sugar
the mall.
scrubs,
Yeah,
like
thank
that.
you. I'm like, and you're buying all like the little products to help your skin look better. But yeah, sugar scrubs, salt scrubs. I've seen lip scrub ones. All of that type of stuff is how I see it.
Whipped
Bubble
body butter,
baths.
things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, bubble baths
all
too,
those
probably.
products.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah. So all those products that people make, a lot of people make those in like a make and take, or, you know, aromatherapists are making them for their clients so that they can get the health benefits, but do it maybe apply them in a fun way, either through a bubble bath for relaxing, or, you know, those something to help with the dry skin like I have. So my legs.
I see this also as
Exfoliate.
perfume. A lot of people love to make their own pure fume, as a lot of people say, where it's
Sure.
just ditching the toxic chemical perfume and making your own with scents that you actually like. And so keeping it at that lower percent for perfume is also going to be something that's ideal.
And this ties into probably some of the next couple of parts, but why would a 4% maybe be okay, say if it was a perfume, versus say compared to an aroma massage where you're going to use it on your whole body? I'm thinking like if you're using a roller bottle, and like when I put my perfume on, I put it in a roller bottle and I literally roll it just on like my wrists and maybe just a dab on my neck. So you can get away with like a slightly higher percentage because it's on just a tiny part of your body. It's not going to inundate your entire body the way, you know, a 4% blend would if it was aroma massage. It might be a little bit too much in that case.
I heard something interesting actually within the last few weeks of, because a lot of people say to put it over your pulse points. And I don't remember where I heard it, but that your pulse points actually are very, very slightly warmer than other parts of your body because of the extra movement of your pulse there, I would assume. So it just that extreme tiny difference in heat actually is enough to warm the oil that slightly more so that you can actually smell it more and have a little bit more of an impact on you. I don't know 100% on this, like the validity of it, but it's something that I did hear in the last few weeks. And I just thought it was an interesting tidbit when using
People
perfume.
have been putting their perfumes on those points forever as a specific place. So I feel like there's got to be something built into that, because it's been hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Where people have been putting them on their pulse points. So,
exactly. So I just thought it was a cool little thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Rhonda, do you want to talk about specific issues? And that may or may not tie into even the last part of dermal wounds and pain, because I feel like they're all kind of tying together. Do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit for us? I feel like you might have a bit of experience with some of those.
Yes. Well, I think we all do a little bit, right? So
definitely.
specific issues would speak more to conditions, right? So you're not just applying essential oils everywhere and going, oh, I hope I get some benefits out of this, right? There's something specifically happening and you're trying to address that. So it could be a topical, like a dermal issue that you're trying to treat. So like when we were talking earlier about sort of that cystic acne piece, you wouldn't use the 4 to 10% because that's on your face, right? But if it was somewhere else on your body, you could potentially get away with a slightly higher dilution after the inflammation's gone, right? So you have to look out for those wounds and already having that sort of reaction there. You can also look at it from like the pain points. So when we're talking about dermal wounds and pain, I have a lot of experience with pain management. I live with a chronic pain condition. I have a fractured spine. So I do tend to use slightly higher dilutions of essential oils because I have a constant fracture pain. And so that's probably the highest dilution that you would use would be for something like that. Now, the essential oils and the carrier oils, they're not going to heal the fracture, but they will help manage the pain a little bit, right? But they're more effective on muscle pains, I would say, than fracture pains, because fracture pains are bone related. And I don't actually find it helps a lot with that personally. But so that's where we get into sort of that specific issues or pain. And it does go up because pain is tricky, right? Especially when we're working with chronic conditions. When you're looking at something like just a headache, I would still start at that specific issue dilution. So I would start at the 4% or even lower.
Unless
even
you're
a
going to
one or
apply it to your face.
Mhm.
That's right.
So this, you could apply it to the back of your neck. So when people are going, well, where can I apply it at 4%? The back of your neck, right at the base of your skull,
Yeah.
and down your spine is going to be the ideal spot to be applying it if you have it at the
And my headaches
100%.
come from my shoulders. So like I usually tend to apply it to my shoulders and that spot where the knots are. And then it just starts radiating up and taking care of the rest of my
And
head
even if it's
pain.
your headache is up at the top, even applying it to the back, it kind of pulls it down. And so
Yeah.
just because headaches is a big one that we often see. And so
Yes.
sure.
And they're very effective for headaches. So it's
absolutely.
one that we don't just often see. People are very successful with it. So it's something that
Exactly.
people often use aromatherapy for, right? And and aromatherapy has that benefit of not having the same types of side effects that pharmaceuticals do. So people do tend to try and go as natural as possible, right? Because we want to support our body in that healing process. So that's really what we would be looking at. The 20% would really be a max. Just because you're looking at pain doesn't mean you should start at that 20% at all. Even with a spinal fracture, I can tell you that I've started blends at like 2 and 3% to see how effective they are. And I've played around because some essential oils are more specifically involved in helping our pain management versus other oils, right? So when we look at something that has a higher higher chemical profile for pain management, high in sesquiterpenes, for example, then I might use that essential oil versus something that's like calming, right? Because sometimes pain causes stress. So we want to relax our body and deal with the pain at the same time. So I may use less of the calming oil and more of the pain relieving oils. And so I can use a lower dilution. So, and that's really, this gets more into the aromatherapy piece, right? This is where a clinical aromatherapist versus, somebody just looking at the chart for fun and trying to make their own blends, might not get as much success. So I would say like the aromatherapists are worth their weight in gold, but these dilution charts, they're perfect for a starting point. But you can still go much lower. And we do suggest that you start lower. I mean, there's no use on wasting the oils, right? When you don't need to.
And this
So
again ties into depending on if you're going to be using it for a chronic condition or an acute condition. So stay tuned for in the future when we do our 5-part series on how to dilute for different conditions, because this is going to make a huge difference, right? Applying it for 1 to 2 days at a higher dilution and then lowering it is something that's, going to be more recommended for certain things. So that's also important to look at.
one thing I wanted to mention that we haven't talked about on these safety dilution chart podcast series yet is that we have to make sure we're also keeping in mind the dermal maximum. So now that we're at the point where we're talking about things that are maybe 10%, there are lots of essential oils where you cannot put 10% of that essential oil on your body without being way over the dermal maximums. So that ties into our safety labels. If you want to have something handy and you can see what the dermal maximum is. And so I just want to make sure that we're reminding people about that as well. So there's so many different moving parts to blending and safety, essential oil safety. And if you are,
sorry, I'm showing the safety
like, if you're
labels.
watching, I was
People
gonna say,
can't
if you're
see.
watching, you'll see what Nikki's doing, but she's like
Yes.
fanning the essential oil
Yes.
labels
Tune
and throwing the little
into
bottle
YouTube.
in front.
Right? Yeah. Tune
There'll
into
be pictures in
YouTube.
the show notes. We'll put pictures in the show notes too. But yeah, it's important to make sure that all of that is being captured in your thought process when you're creating things. So, you do not want to put 20% of cinnamon on your body, for example. That would be bad. That would be very bad.
Yeah.
It would hurt. It would burn.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind as you're blending. All right.
Yeah. I mean, actually, you probably shouldn't put cinnamon topically on your body at all. So,
Fair.
That's
that
where
might be a
like
whole other conversation too.
yeah, that's like a whole other conversation. But that's the beauty of the safety labels, right? Like you can use cinnamon for so many other things in aromatherapy. It has benefits for us when we're using them as inhalers and diffusions and stuff. But when we're looking at topical dilutions, there are essential oils that we're going to actually exclude from being able to use topically at all. So that's definitely a consideration. So that's a very good point, Rachel. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, something like bergamot, which is 0.4%, has it as a max dilution. So you really want to make sure that you're following that, or when you go out into the sun, your skin pigmentation can change, which nobody wants to have these lines of what will look like burns almost on your skin wherever you applied the oil.
Exactly.
Yes.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask about is when we apply essential oils for pain, and I know the answer to this, of course, but when we apply essential oils for pain, if you apply it once, is that enough? Or do you want to maybe do something else?
So this is where applying it more. So this is where the less is more, so that you can apply it more through the day. Like I know my husband, he has, I can't remember it, but the bones on two of his toes are fused together more than they should be. They weren't separated quite as much for whatever reason when he was being developed as a baby. That's just how his toes went. But it causes friction, and it's almost like an arthritis that happens there, and it inflames. So when that happens, he'll apply the oil, 5-6 times through the day, but it's at a very lower percent dilution, so that I can apply it or he can apply it and massage it over that area and keep that inflammation down.
Yeah. So what that does is it gives you like your body like a constant application of the essential oil to help. So you're not having like those spikes up and down. So if you can keep it regular, you can usually get some better benefits as well.
Because the body still takes time to filter it out of your system. So if you wait a couple of hours between applying it to the area that you need, your body has had time to lower the therapeutic benefits that it has in the body. It's already started to excrete it, and then you apply it and it brings it back up into that therapeutic level.
Yes. And keep in mind too, that when you're looking at pain, there's inflammation in the body, right? So if you've ever felt pain and you go to that sort of sore muscle, you feel hot. So your body is going to absorb that much faster, because if we apply heat to topical uses, we absorb it faster, right? So that's why you're going to want to apply it a bit more as well, because our body just naturally is hot in those areas until we can get that inflammation and pain to come down.
Any other last minute information tips that want to be shared about dermal dilutions or just diluting in general? So again, this is part 3 of our 3-part series. If you haven't listened to part 1 and 2, please go back and listen to those.
So my last tip, I would say is, this isn't set in stone. If you meet an aromatherapist who is blending differently outside of what our charts are, that has a lot more to do with your health history, your conditions, the essential oils specifically, right? There's a lot more involved in that. So these charts are a great starting point for everybody, but the aromatherapist, the clinical aromatherapist, may do it differently. So don't be surprised if you meet an aromatherapist who's using a lot less, or in some cases, a little bit more.
Yeah, these are guidelines. Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think that's a great spot to wrap this episode up and this 3-part series on dilution. So thank you for tuning in to Vetiver Vibes, the Essential Oil Scoop. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rachael.
I'm Rhonda.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was brought to you by Essentria, a leading online aromatherapy school. You can join the free Introduction to Essential Oil course at www.schoolofessentria.com.
If you love this episode or you got a lot of value out of it, please make sure you share it with someone in your community who you think will enjoy it too. If you haven't already subscribed or reviewed the show yet, please go over to your preferred streaming platform and hit subscribe, then leave a review. This is the best way to help support us, and we appreciate it. Email us with a screenshot of your review, and you will be entered into our monthly draw for a free mini course.
This podcast is for information purposes only. We are certified clinical aromatherapists and holistic health professionals. If you have a medication concern, please refer to your health team. Everyone's health is unique to themselves, so the topics and suggestions stated may or may not apply to you directly.